Okay, excellent. So I think we got all the speakers lined up for the final panel sessions. So we have 10 minutes each for each of the panelists to introduce their views and research on embodiment. And we will have a panel discussion afterwards. And this is going to be final discussion. So we will hopefully come up with some radical, crazy, bold ideas how we can move on with this exciting research area of embodied intelligence. So let's kick off with Antonio Bicchi from the University of Pisa. And he is going to talk about what is it like to be a bot. This is a very intriguing title. So I'm looking forward to your presentation. Thank you for joining, Antonio. Go ahead.
Thank you, Fumiya and all. It's a pleasure to be here. I missed some of this conference, unfortunately, but I was lucky enough to listen to Professor Kanai's talk, and that was a great introduction. Actually, I think my talk should have been an introduction because it's much more shallow than what Professor Kanai said. The title that he's here, it's of course inspired by something that is very close to what Professor Kanai said, a fundamental paper in consciousness that was asking, Thomas Nagel was asking, what is it like to be a bat? Arguing that you can never know what a bat thinks means to be a bat. The question we will pose is close to this. And one thing that I want to ask first and foremost is, where is intelligence? So the models that we have are different. There is a model that thinks that the intelligence is all in the brain. And of course, this has consequences in how you program processes that do basically information processing. This is AI as information processing. If you think of where is intelligence, you might think of having the fundamental element is a neuron, and then you have a model of this neuron. Assume that you have a model of a neuron, then you can think of replicating this fast and many times enough to build something that resembles a cortex. And if you do this, and probably you want to do this with a neural network today, then are you close to having an intelligence? So this is kind of a thought experiment that I always use to explain what I think is embodied intelligence. Because if you do this, of course, the cortex is not enough, and you have to think more of the other parts of the brain, all the inner parts of the brain. And even then, this is not enough, because you have to think of where the information comes to the brain and how it comes to the brain. So all the nervous system of the body is part of this system if you want to simulate the intelligence in your computer program. And if you do this, you have to go down to the very endings of the nerves where the information is created. And that is very recently, last year, the Nobel Prize went, as you all know, to David Julius and Albert Papatutian for explaining how heat, cold, and mechanical forces can initiate neural impulses that allow us to recognize and adapt to the world around us. So intelligent is the body, really, and that's, I think, what this conference is about. But beyond the model of embodied mind that we have known for a long time, I would say that there is a bit more than this in what I think is important. And this is the interaction that we have with the environment. Here is an example of a robot hand solving the Rubik cube. This is the famous OpenAI feat that impressed all of us a couple of years ago. Notably, as you probably know, Wojciech Zaremba, one of the co-founders of OpenAI, has closed in last June the robotics part of OpenAI by acknowledging that even though they solved this problem with a very interesting result, acknowledging that it was too difficult to obtain data for learning supervised or reinforced algorithms. And the problem was that you need interaction to obtain data, and physical interaction, which makes a big difference. It's even more than just this. If you look at this video, it's a simple video where a robot takes a book out of the shelf, but this is the same operation that a person would do. You can see that what happens here is that there is some intelligence, there is a man behind this, but there is also the exploitation of the environmental constraints to use just one finger to pick a book out of the shelf. So the environment is part of the manipulation, is really part of the system, it's part of the intelligence in some sense. And this is to, I use this to explain the extended mind paradigm that was proposed a few years ago by Andy Clark and others, where the system is not really just the brain and the body, but it's also the environment through a loop of action and sensation that is mediated by the physical interaction. And this, to me, is the reason why I think that AI in the future will no longer be just information processing, but it will be interaction processing. Now we are doing artificial body parts. And when you do an artificial body part, for instance, for prosthesis, as in this example, you have to think of how this artificial body part integrates in the general body schema and the conscious actions of the person. So it's not just the operations that you do, but also the natural behavior, social behavior, and self-touching behavior that you can see. This is a soft prosthesis that we have developed in the past that uses this idea of having the same natural interaction with the environment that our own hand has. And the softness of the robots that we use is an intrinsic part because of the similarity with the environment. So you can see here that the softness of the hand allows to interact with the environment in a very natural way, even in a kidding way, as in this video here. I'll move fast. Now, from prosthesis, you can think of larger exoskeletons. And once you have an exoskeleton, why do you need to be there? If it is, autonomous enough, you can be somewhere else. And that's a classical idea of teleoperation. There are very, very important results from the early times until very recently. This teleoperation is one of the most successful applications of robotics everywhere. And in teleoperation, you have two problems. One is that the well-known transparency problem, which can be addressed by technical issues. But another one is that you want to have a natural interaction with the environment to establish that likelihood of interaction that will convince the person to really be somewhere else and do something else. So we really want to replace, to no longer replace humans with robots, but integrate and have something that is more than the parts. To do this, we need to have not only a transparent interaction between the commanding and the robot parts, but also a natural interaction with the environment. So that because each motor command comes with its own expected perceptual output, which is mediated by interaction. Therefore, you have to replicate the naturalness of interaction if you want the person to feel naturally in another environment. So we have developed Alter Ego, that is an autonomous robot to study this problem. It's an autonomous robot with variable stiffness and compliant soft materials that accepts also human inhabitants. So it can be autonomous, as you see here, can have behaviors that, for instance, follow a person, look at him, and go on. But you can also inhabit it and become the robot, be the robot. So for instance, if you are in office and you want to bring a medicine to a person that is in the next room, you can do that from a perspective that is easily understood from the pictures. So more recently, we started doing experiments with the robot as a performer. For instance, in a theater, did 3 or 4 shows already, 1 hour plus in the show, where the actor was really somewhere else. Recently got to primetime TV with many views, and here is the robot interacting with the person, Maria, that's also the processes user, in a natural interactive way. So the person that is behind this robot is really transmitting touch and feeling information. So let me close this with this experiment where we have a person that we probably know that is now commanding the robot. He's being the bot. A person is Professor Bruno Siciliano, who came to visit our lab. And then you see here that he's immersed. He became the robot. One thing that we did in this video is that we asked the person Bruno to guide the robot until he could see himself. And you see the reaction when he sees himself. After a little while, it's really, wow, you are someone else and you see yourself from outside. And that was the strong reaction that everybody is having when this happens. So in a sense, this is an experience of a strange loop. You are out and then you come back and you see yourself from outside. I think this is very interesting. Probably, I hope it's also interesting to you. And this concludes my talk. Thank you very much. This is our group that has done all the work that you've seen here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Antonio. This is one fantastic introduction of the crazy ideas of your research project. I have just a quick question to you. What do you think is the limit of ourselves extending with robotics technology? Is there any limit that we cannot go extended, or what's your view on this?
Well, our work is to push these limits, right? To push this envelope. So I don't know if there are any hard bounds. Today, I think we are working a lot on trying to transmit not just interaction, physical interaction with the environment, but also physical interaction with people. For instance, can I touch somebody with the robot and make him feel that it's me? Can I be with my mother, for instance, and can she feel that it's me and it's not another one?
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, thank you. I think we had a really interesting discussion yesterday about the sense of agency and sense of ownership and stuff like that. I think this will connect nicely to the technologies you're exploring. So we'll come back to you for the discussion afterwards. Thank you, Antonio.